Hello, Village Gaming, and sorry we had a beautiful freeze frame just at the start. So, welcome to the Weekly Quest 2. Yes, since we renamed our podcast, this is the second show we are making. So please, if you like this format, please subscribe, comment, share, do whatever you need to make us popular. Thank you very much. And I am very well accompanied today by my Taiwanese colleagues, Krian and Adam. And today we're gonna start with some California license buying issue. Adam, tell us more.
Okay, so it's not so much a buying issue in California as it is a buying issue anywhere. So as we all know, or as most of us probably are aware, you don't actually own anything you buy online. What's happening is you're buying a license to use that thing. And therefore, if it's ever taken down, then it's gone forever and there's nothing you can do because you don't actually own the property itself. Now, if you own a physical thing, like for instance, I still have my old Sims 2 CDs or my old Warcraft 2 CDs, right? If you own something like that, that's yours forever. You have a physical copy of it. You can do whatever you want with that physical copy. You could resell it if you wanted to, or you could reinstall it on a new computer with no issue. But if you download something digitally from a storefront like, say, Steam or Epic or the PlayStation Store or Xbox, you don't actually own it. You are just buying the license, saying you're allowed to use it, and it technically is owned by either the publisher or whoever has the store or something like that, and they have every right to take it down. And if they do, you'll lose full access to it. So in California, the governor, I believe, or not the governor. It's the governor recently signed a law which was originally sponsored by, let's see if I can get her name right, Jackie Irwin, I believe. She has a unique spelling on it, so I'm hoping that's the correct pronunciation. But anyway, this was signed into law because Jackie Irwin, she was motivated because she saw that Sony announced a while back that digital copies of anything of purchased content from Discovery was going to be revoked. So it used to be on PSN, you could buy things like you could buy movies, you could buy TV shows, and Sony had a deal with Discovery that you could download, that you could buy these shows like Mythbusters and that sort of thing, And it turns out that the license that Sony had was about to expire. And because of that, they couldn't put it on the platform anymore, which meant that if you had bought it, you no longer would have access to it because technically you didn't own it. Technically, Discovery still owned it. And without that license, Sony would not be allowed to distribute it to you. So because of that, she said, hey, you know what? This is unacceptable because they said, it said buy, and then now you don't have access to it anymore. So she decided to pass this law. And that particular case ended up not mattering because Sony made a deal with Discovery in December 2023. That basically, they were all, and there's a last minute agreement that, all that content will stay up. So they did have a deal in place for that, or they didn't make a deal, but they didn't have to. And that was part of the thing. And so in California, from now on, it is now going to be illegal for any company to sell any kind of digital good, music, movies, video games, and use words like buy or purchase without explicitly pointing out that you are actually not buying it. You are buying a license for that product, and that product can be removed at any time. And so because of this, they're saying we want people to be very much aware you're not buying it, you're buying the license. And basically, in a sense, you're basically renting it in perpetuity until it's no longer available for rent, and then it's being taken away from you. And anybody who violates this and does not adequately state that these things are not bought is going to have to pay a $2,500 fine, which might not seem like a lot, but that is actually per listing. So if you're something like say Steam, every single game that doesn't list it is a $2,500 fine. And given that you have millions of games up there, that could be a really big issue, because if you're missing one, you're going to be missing others as well. So there. But there is kind of an odd thing that kind of concerns me a bit. So they did say there are some exceptions, and these exceptions are games that are free to download. So if it's free to download, you didn't pay anything, they don't necessarily need to say that because technically it was free. But it also says games that include an offline mode that allow the game to run without a constant connection to the internet, which is most games. So I'm kind of confused what that includes, because if you're saying any game that can be played offline and run without an internet connection, then that's the vast majority of single player games, right? So it's kind of like, well, that game can still be taken down, and that's an issue. So I'm not quite sure just how well this is going to be enforced, but there is a silver lining to all this, and that is that GOG recently came out and said, hey, you know what? Actually, you can own the games that you have bought online. Because as what GOG says is you can actually download installers for the game. All their games are DRM free. You can download offline installers, which you can then keep on your hard drives. Or if you wanted to, you could burn those installers onto a disk, and then you would basically have a game disk that you could, reinstall your game at any given time, even if you lost internet access, or in their example, there was a zombie apocalypse and the internet went down, but you still had electricity somehow. You could still download your games or install your games through these installers that you can download from GOG. So according to them, you can actually buy a game and keep it in perpetuity. Now, that being said, they can revoke access to the game on the store. So if you buy it, quote unquote, on the store and don't download the installer and then they take it off the store, yeah, you can still lose access to it. But once you download that installer, you can have it in perpetuity. So they really wanted to point that out, that, use GOG, because, you can back up your library locally and not have to worry about what we're going to be doing in the future. So anyway, I thought that was really interesting, especially now that this is going to have, I'm assuming, a really big impact, because, for instance, if you have something like a store like Steam or PlayStation or PSN or whatever, the California store is the same store you're going to be seeing in other states, which means if it's going to be a problem in California, they're going to have to adjust that they're not going to make a special store just for California. So yeah, be prepared to see a lot more things that don't say, buy or purchase on the thing, but rather say buy license or something like that. So
I have a question of that. First of all, a remark. Burn CDs, that's very nice, but there's no more CD players on any computers anymore, right? So that's stupid. But anyway, if you bought a game, right, and you know that in 10 years there will be plenty of companies, let's hope, doing emulators of previous console or something like this, and if you download a ROM of something that you bought on GOG 10 years ago and it has been removed, is it legal or not? Because ROM, as you know, if you have the physical copy of it, you can get a ROM. If you don't have the physical copy of it, it's pirating and you can't. In this case, what do you think? Do you think it's fine because I bought it on GOG so long ago and it has been removed, but technically I had it, and if I burned it, I would physically had it?
that's kind of a legal gray area. I mean, technically, because each game has its own like serial code or license, or they have like you would use your own CD keys or whatever. That's why, like, if technically I bought a game for the Super Nintendo, if I download a ROM, it's still technically illegal. If I took some kind of device, plugged my own cassette into it, and then ripped it from my physical disc, that's legal. But if I download somebody else's because I technically didn't have license to that or version of it, or that is technically illegal. But it would be kind of hard to prove for like older things. In the case of GOG, though, I don't think you'd really need to, because you would have the download thing right there, right? You wouldn't need to use an emulator. You could just install it directly. Unless you were using some sort of virtual machine, because we have, quantum computers in the future or whatever, and they're incompatible with our current 64 bits or something like that, kind of like how old games don't run. Yeah, so technically that's gray area.
All right. Krian, any thoughts? All right.
He wants to get through.
All right, how about you talk to us about Zelda? Echoes of Wisdom, I believe.
Nope, he's not ready.
Remember, I'm talking about my time at Evershine. It's all good.
Zelda Never Shine. Let's go.
All right, I'm gonna start this again. Okay. Middle-aged gamers, now it's your time to shine in my time at Evershine. That probably doesn't make sense, but let me tell you about it. So on this show, I'm known, or should be known, as the cozy casual gamer. I don't know how that happened, but it just happened. And you probably heard about us, as in Antoine and I, talk about my time at Sandrock. I played my time at Porsche. I believe Antoine played my time at Porsche as well. Well, they just announced a new game last week in the My Time series, the third game, and released on Kickstarter as of me recording this video right now. So if you're watching the live show, they're at $1.55 million. Yesterday they had 1.4. I'm very sure they will pass $3 million for sure. I'm sure they are already the most highest crowd-funded Chinese game in Western history on Kickstarter, of course, right? So again, this is a company based in Chongqing, China. To give you some numbers as well, right? Like their first game, Porsche, raised $146,000, right, at the end of the Kickstarter. Then they just 3x'd it. My Time at Sandrock raised $524,000. And now with My Time at Evershine, they're already at $1.5 million. So, and again, each game has been better, to be honest. So what's different, right? If you're watching the video, if you go onto the Kickstarter page, you're gonna notice a new engine. This looks totally different from like these, Adam always was the one who taught me this word, chibi style game effects, was like, because I never heard of chibi before until I met Adam. But basically, yeah, the big head, small body sort of style. That was Porsche and Sandrock was famous for. That really turned some people off. But now you have this like newer model. People compare it to that free-to-play MMO Palia, but it looks better. It still looks kind of generic, but it still does look much better than the previous game. So one of the things as well is that they're reducing the number of romanceable characters. So in Porsche, you just had like one or two. So I mean, that was the first game, right? But in Sandrock, there were a lot of people like, yes, I want to date this person and marry this person. But now they're like reducing it down, but they're giving you more choices in terms of what you can do. I'd imagine like expanding the dating experience. I'm playing Coral Island, and Coral Island, there's like 40 or 50 places you can go on a date in the game, and varying amounts of money. Everything is different. Everything's scripted, so it looks like how you'd imagine a date would go in real life, if you've never been on a date for some reason. One of the things they also mentioned is that the romance lines are going to be voiced, which is awesome, because I've always imagined in the previous games like what my dating partner's voice sounds like. But this time, like when you're dating someone, you can have a voice behind that person, which is really, really cool. I'm excited about that. Multiplayer is something. Sandrock came with multiplayer, but again, I don't know anybody who actually played it. Probably the most famous multiplayer cozy lifestyle would be Stardew Valley. You see this a lot on Reels, you see this a lot on Shorts, couples playing this together. So whether Evershine can sort of crack the nut that is multiplayer cozy sims is another story. Let's also not forget Concerned Ape, the guy behind Stardew Valley's new game, is coming out next year, which is when this comes out. So if they want to compete with, especially against the guy who started it all, and you can argue about Harvest Moon or not, that's another story, but multiplayer is supposed to be a little bit better in Evershine. How they're going to do that is another story. I guess sort of another big thing is mod support. Though again, how they're going to do this, like I can imagine all these people have voice lines and that sort of stuff, and you can sort of integrate it together and to make your own story mods, which would be nice. The one thing My Time at Evershine has that I think a lot of other games don't have is a lot of really cool story quests. And whoever does the writing in Porsche and Sandrock, they're these like kind of like not amazing writing, but it's like your typical primetime show in the US, right? Like on something on CNBC or something like that. probably not CNBC, on NBC or ABC, something that's like, oh, it's good, it makes you laugh, but it's not like, oh God, I need to watch all of Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon or something like that. That's story's not that amazing. And then, what am I looking for in this game, right? Is I think the world needs to be more vibrant. Like Coral Island really set the bar for me when it comes to vibrancy in a world. I'd also love some AI in it, because at the same time, like, all these characters have this limited amount of lines. Like, I'd love, this is not going to happen though, of course, but I'd like a cozy lifestyle game where, like, okay, we're done with all the voice acted lines or the pre-inputted story. Let's have a Gen AI generate some storylines with these characters or something. Like, I think that's very, very doable. So, as of, I think when I did research about this story on Sunday, 945,000 people bought this game according to Gamelytics. So the game made good money because it was about $30 or so, plus they made $500,000. Of course, they're making another game. And My Time at Evershine is not coming out for the Switch. It is coming out for the Switch 2, which does lend credence to something. I remember Adam mentioned this, that developers were shown the Switch 2 at some point at some like game event or something along those lines. So it is out there in the ether, and we can expect this game releasing for the Switch 2 next year. So that being said, I'm buying this for Steam. I'm not buying any Switch Kickstarter games anymore because the performance is not great. But yeah, My Time at Evershine, I would say, given this is the company's third game, I will lessen my usual Kickstarter disclaimer that you might not get a game. This is still like an 80% chance, but if you're interested, check out the Kickstarter page, check out the other games on Steam, on whatever platform it is, check it out on the console, and then decide if you want to back it. As usual, I already have. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to playing this. I literally backed a French game 2 weeks ago as well, so I have all these like cozy lifestyle games all kickstarted out for the next 2 years or so. That's it.
I want to have a Korean top 10, games to back on Kickstarter video. I'm sure it's gonna be, it would be super interesting.
Oh God, see, that would be too difficult because there are not that many games at the same time. Like I could
Top
do, it'd probably be like a top three, because like there's a few games, but some of them are really bad, from like some guy who lives in his mom's basement in Utah or something like that.
Of course.
No, but yeah. I'll let you move on to your story, sir.
Alright, so I'm gonna play tag team with Adam on this one because I'm gonna talk about Ghost of Yōtei, but we have a slightly different take on this one. Alright, so Ghost of Yōtei planned on PS5 in 2025, and I believe that it would be exclusive for some time. I think Tsushima was, and arrived on Steam a good 2 years after at least. Developed by Sucker Punch and published by Sony. Sony has a very good nose these days for good games. Of course, remember that Ghost of Tsushima has sold over 10 million copies and lost Game of the Year to Last of Us 2, which was quite disappointing because for a lot of people like me, and I think Adam, Ghost of Tsushima really deserved it. But, you know. So Ghost of Yōtei is Ghost of Tsushima 2, but the thing is, and I'm sure you have seen it on the PlayStation State of Play, we are not talking about direct sequel, right? We are talking about 300 years later. So Ghost of Tsushima was in the 1200 and something. Ghost of Yōtei will be in 1603, and it's very specific for a reason. I'm going to talk about this later. It's going to star a female lead named Atsu. And the actor playing Atsu is actually quite famous if you know your gaming actor. It's a lady called Erika Ishii, who was played role in Apex Legends, Destiny 2, and more recently Dragon Age Veilguard. So it's called Ghost of Yōtei because we're gonna be in the area around Mount Yōtei in what's today called Hokkaido, but at the time it was named Ezo, different time, right? And if you like geography, it's north of Hakodate and southwest of Sapporo, to be very precise. So our story is in 1603, which is the very first year of the Edo era. Edo is being the old name of Tokyo, or the Tokugawa era, because the old Edo period has been managed, I would say, reigned over by the Tokugawa family. So that's just a little area or historical background, if you will, but just for something which is very interesting, because I wasn't aware of this actually. This area, Mount Yōtei, the north of Hokkaido, the north of Japan, wasn't part of Japan at this time, because if you have seen the trailer, you say you're out of Japan, you're not in Japan here. That's true actually, because at this time, so Hokkaido, it's an island north of Japan. And Japanese had a few cities or a few settlements, if you will, in the very south part of the island, but that's it. And they had at least one noble family. I have the name, the Matsumai, yeah. So basically, there was the noble family was here to try to protect the Japanese settler and try to settle down this new frontier, that was basically the far west, so say the far north of Japan at the time. It was not Japanese, and even the population in the area, I believe they are called the Ainu. The Ainu, by the way, which is a very famous tribe, because you have seen it if you like manga. You have seen it in Shaman King. You have seen it in Golden Kamuy more recently. They come quite often. As soon as you talk about Hokkaido, it's very easy to refer to the Ainu people, which ethnically speaking are absolutely not Japanese, right? Different ethnies are indigenous to this area. So exactly, this game is, I want to mention Star Wars Outlaws, but I'm gonna see. Sucker Punch communication manager describes the game like this, right? We wanted to maintain the core pillars established in Ghost of Tsushima, which are playing the wandering warrior in feudal Japan, even though it's not Japan really. Offering freedom to explore at your own pace and highlighting the beauty of the world. First time actually for Sucker Punch to do a game for PlayStation 5. So if you recall Ghost of Tsushima, it was absolutely beautiful for PS4. So that's kind of the base that we're waiting for Yōtei, that it's absolutely beautiful for PS5. We really hope it will be, and that's something that they are, they're very likely working on. Even though if I look at the trailer, it really looked like the previous game, but that's just a trailer on a moving on game. So, so they are taking this core pillar, and of course, naturally, you're gonna have new gameplay, new mechanics, new weapons, and a whole lot. So basically, that's it on the gameplay. I'm gonna leave this part to Adam, but if you like the historical part, please, come and discuss with me in the comments. I really love history, and Japanese history is absolutely fantastic. It's really great. So if you know a bit more about this Ezo area, that's where Yōtei is, the Ezo place before its name Hokkaido, please come in the comments. Let's talk. I'd love to hear about it.
Okay.
And Adam, if you have anything to say on the gameplay,
oh no, I got plenty to say about the gameplay. I'm so excited for this. I was waiting for a Ghost of Tsushima. A lot of people are disappointed though, because a lot of people really wanted to continue the story of Jin. And frankly, I didn't want that, because I felt like his story was told. I mean, he was the ghost of Tsushima. He was the protector of Tsushima, and it would make sense that his motivations would be to stay there and make sure, to stay behind the scenes and make sure that the people were treated properly, and, make sure that the Mongols didn't return and all that. So it made a lot of sense for him not to leave the area. So him leaving, I felt wouldn't have made a lot of sense. So I was really hoping for a new protagonist, probably a new time period, and we got both of those, and a new location. And I was really hoping for all of those things. So I couldn't be happier with all of that. It says that she's taking up the moniker or the role of the ghost. So I'm really hoping that what we're getting is not an Assassin's Creed thing where Jin started this, the Order of the Ghost or whatever, and she's a race incarnation. In my personal my personal hope is that the ghost has kind of become this urban legend thing, and throughout time, different people are going to kind of go against the authority or whatever, and they're going to slowly build the legend of the ghost. And so it's technically all these unconnected people that all their deeds are being connected to this one central kind of mythic figure. That's kind of what I'm hoping, mostly because I think that actually would increase the chances of just what you can do with a game, because you can have the fallen samurai and Jin. You could have a lot of people are saying that was it Atsu is a samurai, but maybe she's not. It doesn't explicitly say she is. She's being hunted by Ronin, so she could have been, just some random person who happens to know how to fight. She might not have been from a samurai family. We don't know. So you could have, and this is supposed to be, they're saying that this is an underdog vengeance story. So if she was a samurai, I don't think she would really be the underdog here. So I'm thinking maybe she isn't actually a samurai. And I think that's a great thing, because then you can have, the fallen samurai and Jin. You could have, the hunter who, hunts people, like what it looks like she might be doing. You could have a person who's like a doctor who's working behind the scenes and, helping people. So I think that having the ghost not be connected to each other, but rather just having people's deeds being attributed to this kind of mythic figure is, to me personally, more interesting, because we already have Assassin's Creed and we have the Order of Shadows or whatever they're called, right? So I don't think we need another game for that. I think we can do this a different way. But I am really excited too, because it looks like we're getting new weapons. That was one of my only complaints in Ghost of Tsushima, was that I wish we had more weapon variety. And we see Atsu, she's dual wielding. She's holding two katana, or rather probably a katana and a wakizashi probably. But, she's dual wielding swords. There's one part where she seems to be using the fire ability, which Jin did do, but she seems to be doing it on a very long sword, which would mean that could likely be a Nodachi. We see a, what's this other weapon called? I always forget the name of it. A kusarigama. So we see that. That's the sickle with the chain and the weight on the end of it. We see her using that. We see her using a matchlock musket. So we're seeing a lot of new variety here. I'm super excited about that. I personally really hope we get a pole arm of some form, maybe a Yari or a Naginata. That's personally what I would really love to see. And and she has an instrument. And Jin was always had his flute with him, and he played his flute, and they really kind of fleshed it out in Iki Island, did some stuff with it. She's got a what do they call it? The shamisen. So she's got her instrument too. Maybe she's a traveling bard of some kind. Maybe she was an entertainer or something, and then ended up killing somebody who tried to do something bad to her, and that's why she's being hunted. So I'm hoping they incorporate that, because she's always got it on her back in the trailer. So I'm hoping they incorporate music more. So I'm super excited about this. I'm really hyped, and I'm but the one thing I really, 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 really hope they do is give us another Legends as well, because Legends was just amazing, the multiplayer. Really hope they give us another Legends, or we get another multiplayer thing. So I could not be happier with this reveal. This is exactly what I was hoping for. And I know a lot of other people were wanting something different, but this is exactly what I was hoping for. So I could not be happier with the reveal of Ghost of Yōtei.
For the shamisen, I'm pretty sure, at least in my mind, it's like, like Jin was stopping to do IQ and being very poetic for a moment. I would imagine she would do the same, like find a spot and compose a song for a second. And
I'm sure, yeah.
Nice.
Jin did the haiku, and then in Iki Island he did the play the flute for the animals thing. So I'm sure it's a mechanic. There's no way they're having it on her at all times in this trailer, and it's not coming up. So
absolutely. Do you think that she's attuned with nature or something? As in the trailer, you see like there's a wolf passing in front of her.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Is she's gonna attack and
yeah. So I think this is a mechanic from Legends. In Legends, if you were the Ronin class, you could summon a ghost dog, or dogs, and then they could work with you, because the Mongols had dogs, and then in the multiplayer they were like, okay, one of the abilities is you can summon these ghost dogs to help you out. So I think that people really liked that, because you could pet the dog and everything. And so I think because of that, they were like, hey, you know what, since we already kind of have this mechanic, let's flesh it out a little bit more and give the protagonist a pet dog or wolf that she can work with. So I think they're fleshing out that mechanic from Legends there. So
All right. So if we are making, imagine that there's some invaders like the Mongols. Do you think it would be a story about the Japanese invading Hokkaido, and or it would be completely unrelated to historical events this time around? Because that's what part of the charm of Tsushima is. It is connected to what something really happened.
yeah, if I had to guess, I would say she's Japanese because she is not dressed like the Ainu people.
Yeah, true.
They are actually they have the whole like last third of Okami takes place in Hokkaido and features that tribe. So I don't think she's one of them. I think she is Japanese, and I think and this is a pretty big point in time where there was a lot of turmoil where the samurai were kind of establishing themselves as a kind of like a police force kind of thing. So, and then as the guy says, you know, every Ronin is out looking for you. He doesn't say every samurai. He says every Ronin, which means that you have a lot of these wandering, you know, Ronin who masterless samurai wandering around. So this is clearly in a time of strife. So I think she's Japanese, and I'm pretty sure this will probably be a more Japanese centric thing because, yeah, again, most of what we see fashion wise with what people are wearing look more Japanese and less Ainu. So,
Okay. I really hope it's gonna be a bit like a Golden Kamuy, where you see the mix of both completely different tradition and culture, which was very interesting.
yeah, no, I would
We'll
love
see.
to see that. Yeah, make kind of a clashing of cultures. Yeah.
Mm. And with that, Korean, do you have a second story this time? No. Okay, fair enough.
But I do.
Mm. Then
Yeah,
let's
but I
go.
do, so we
Adam,
can jump to
you're
the.
on.
Okay.
All right. You're
So yeah, so we have if you are a fan of if you are a fan of Persona 5, which you are, because everyone is, and we can't get enough of it, which is why this game has been re-released 27 times in 58 iterations across every possible genre, then you're probably aware of Persona 5 Phantom X, which was a gacha game that was only released in China. And that's kind of crazy because the whole world loves Persona 5. Why did only China get this? Well, now it's not only going to be in China. Now it's only going to be in China and Japan and nowhere else. So if you're a fan who's watching this show, that means you're probably able to speak English of some kind, which means you're probably not in Japan. And therefore, you're still not going to be able to play this game. But don't worry, it does look like they are planning to, at some point, eventually release a worldwide version of this game. But that might not be for a while. So the Japanese release has recently been unveiled, and let's see, it's but I don't think they've given us a date as to when it'll be revealed, when it'll be available yet. So it is coming out, but we don't know when it's going to be available. And they are, like they said, they are planning on doing a worldwide release. Also, I forgot to mention this, and I probably should have. The Japanese release is going to be on Steam, not necessarily on mobile. So they might have a mobile version, but it'll be on Steam. So if you're on PC, you'll be able to play this game, which was originally a mobile game. So that's pretty cool there. And also, because this is a gacha game, like every other gacha game, you know, Zenless Zone Zero, what's the other one? Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail. The story just keeps going and going and going and going. It's not a standalone game, but it does look like they do have an end game in mind, and they are kind of ramping up to it. So it does look like they will actually finish the game. And maybe around the time of the Japanese release, maybe a little bit later after the Japanese release, then the game will be in its entirety. It'll be full. It'll be done. So, you know, finally you can play the whole story and know everything that goes on. By the time the worldwide release comes out, I'm sure that it will probably be done. I don't know if they're going to add little DLC side stories or whatever down the future, but at least you'll have a complete story to play. But again, it is a gacha game, so you know it is going to be one of those things where you pull for certain characters and for certain personas and whatnot and weapons, and so you're not going to be able to just grind through it or like you would in a traditional game. But still, if this is the game that you've been looking forward to and you've been wanting to play the story, definitely looking forward to it. Again, only in Japan and China. Well, in China and only coming to Japan in the immediate future, but there are plans to bring it to everybody else. And of course, as with every gacha game and with every Persona game, there are going to be crossovers. So expect to see the Phantom Thieves and everybody else. I don't know what the other groups are called from the other from the other Persona games, but prepare to see all those people showing up to eat up your wallet so that you can just pull a loot box 50,000 times just to make sure that you get Ryuji, who is quite possibly one of the greatest characters of all time. So
I suppose Atlus is testing the water since gacha is really much an Asian type of gameplay. If they are making enough money in Japan, then they release worldwide. Otherwise, if it doesn't really work in Japan, maybe there's no point in going worldwide.
It's a possibility. My guess is that because gacha kind of mechanics are just super popular in Asia in general, but especially China. And if I had to guess, I don't think Atlus themselves are saying we want to make a gacha game. I think it's that China came to them, or some Chinese company or whatever, publisher or whatever came to them, and they were like, "Hey, here is a sack of cash. Make us a gacha game." And Atlus was like, "I like money, okay." And then that's why they did it. I don't think this was originally their plan, where they were like, "Hey, we haven't made a gacha game. Let's do it." No, I think they were definitely planning on. Probably not even doing it. And then they got the sack of cash and they're like, okay, we're going to do this now. And that's why it was only in China for a while. And they're like, well, you know what? We have fans all over the world. They'll probably want to play this too. We should probably port it. So yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Thank you. Remind me, right? Atlus is the same as Sega, right? Or at least it's
Atlus, I believe, is under Sega, if I remember correctly.
Is under Sega. So, another great video, the top 5 or top 10 best games that Sega either developed or published. I mean, they've made so many great games, between the Valkyrias. Exactly, yes, Valkyria, the Persona. So many games. That could be a great video. Well, exactly. Sorry, completely out of the show, but a quick question, Korean. I don't think I've seen any Reddit questions for the week. Do we have any Reddit questions? Not this week. So we are not gonna finish the show with this. I had a second story, but to be honest, it's a bit like the kind of story you don't really want to hear because it's a bit sad and it's a bit politically involved. So what do you think, guys? Do you think I should run with it?
Yes, please, because it's on the calendar, so I need another story.
Also,
okay,
I made a graphic for it.
Yes, you made a graphic for it, so yes.
Well, then I guess I have no choice. Okay, that's not gonna be a very long story, but we're gonna talk about Russia and the gaming community, because yes, while the war is going on and everything, there is still some gamers in Russia. Of course, it's a very big country, and it's a very sad time for them as well. Not as sad as the rest, but put the war aside, right? We're really gonna talk about Russia and gaming, although it's definitely connected, right? And what's happening is that in the next few days, weeks at most, Russia is planning to ban Discord within the country. They say in the coming weeks, but it could be even faster than that, which mark another big gaming outlet being banned in Russia, with at this time usually they are trying to replace with domestic website like China does, for instance. At this time the Russian gamers don't have a replacement for Discord, but that's kind of very sad for them, and especially for the gaming developer community, because I didn't get the name of the guy, but most of the developers are communicating with their fan base and with the gaming community through Discord. So with that gone and no replacement, it's going to be a very heavy hit for all the game developers over there. I actually don't know any AAA studio based in Russia, but all the indie developers over there are definitely gonna be in trouble, especially since Annapurna is going under these days. So yes, that's basically what happens. And remember, we are just talking about Discord right now, but just after the start of the war, Instagram went down in February 2022, so a few months after. And earlier this year in 2024, YouTube went down as well. So if you're a gamer in Russia, it's a very, very tough time. So where did I put? Russia government has taken aim at several popular video games as well within the country, restricting games like Apex Legends or The Last of Us. So even it's really a question of so Russia cites multiple rulings against Discord for failing to restrict access to ban information as a major factor in banning the platform. So it's really an information war, and they want to restrict your communication with the West. That's basically what's happening. So they are banning every sort of communication, and multiplayer game are a sort of communication as well. So yeah, at this time, the relationship is really, really cold between Russia and the West. So there's no signs of betterment for our fellow Russian gamers. So very sorry for them that politics is destroying their hobby. That's how it is at this time, and not getting better anytime soon. So yeah, I told you it was not a funny story. Yeah. Sorry to finish the show on that one.
I mean, it makes sense to me because any Western company, I mean, not even any Western company, even companies in Taiwan, there is, what is the Office of the Treasury, is there something, I can't remember the full name, right? But they basically tell companies like, hey, you're not allowed to do any business with Russia, and if you are, you need to get out, right? Which is why we saw all these companies saying, hey, we sold our business, or we just left our business and said, yep, see you guys later. You employees figure out what you want to do, because the Office of the Treasury can freeze your company's bank accounts in the States, right? Or the equivalent, I'm sure, have similar powers in other countries, right? Because you're not supposed to be doing business in countries where there are huge numbers of sanctions against it, right? And especially Japan, Taiwan, Korea, right? We all side with America when it comes to things, or the West. So it's the same things, right? Like, I remember there was a company here which got caught reselling oil from Taiwan to the Russians, and that dude lost all his money and is in jail, right? And again, very much likely so. And again, there's a point to this, right? The point is, it's supposed to force the Russian people to say, hey, you need to change your leader, because otherwise you're going to keep getting screwed. There's not going to be Discord, there's not going to be food, there's not going to be this and that. The headlines came out today, like this morning when I woke up, it says, like, if Russia stops fighting Ukraine, right, or something happens, their economy is immediately going straight into a recession because of, I mean, war economies do well. When you're not at war, you're in trouble, right? So I will differ on Antoine's side when it comes to this. I don't feel sorry for any Russian gamers, any Russian devs. You should have gotten out of Russia when you knew this was coming. That's your fault.
Politics, no politics.
This is not politics, this is life.
Sometimes it's hard to get out of the country that you live in. I mean, that's where your family
exactly,
is.
Yeah.
People knew this was coming. I mean, this has been for the last 30 years. They invaded Georgia before. They're like, yeah, he's just invading a country. Sure, this country is okay. I was fine. Yes, I agree. If you knew this was happening 2 years ago, okay, fine. Yeah, it's difficult to move your life in 2 years. This has started 20 years ago when he became president. And then Medvedev became president. And then we found out, oh no, Medvedev is just a puppet, and it was still Putin. Then he became president again. Then they invaded Georgia. This is not new at all. Russia's been going this way for the last 20 years, and it's I mean, it's your fault if you're still living there.
I mean, there's a lot of people
I'm
in
going to go
Russia.
on a limb and give people the
Yeah,
benefit
me
of the
too.
doubt.
No, you're on your own here.
That's fine. No. I know. I am on the extreme side of this conversation. So I mean, it's yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure everyone has the
mean,
money
yeah.
to get out, just to leave sometime.
In any case, not a great time for gaming industry over there. We talked about China before, and still, you know, Tencent made a lot of money with what did they do recently that makes them millions of money? Can't remember. They had a big hit. Anyway, that's fine. Yeah, so if we don't have any Reddit question, guys, what's your schedule for the week?
Korean, you want to go first?
Sure. Echoes of Wisdom every day, Monday to Saturday, probably. And then I'll try and squeeze in some Coral Island. Like I did one day of gameplay last night, which is like 15-20 minutes. That is it for me. As I told the guys before, I'm hoping to come out with a weekly series of Echoes of Wisdom videos, like how to defeat Link, what are the top 5 echoes, that sort of stuff.
Top strategies, yes, because it's a very strategy-oriented game, of course. And you, Adam, what are you streaming? Zenless Zero?
Yeah, so I'm finally done with Zenless Zone Zero, not because I'm done with it. It's one of those games that's going to go on forever. Will I continue to play it? That's a good question. I actually don't know. I am enjoying... I'm actually on my own time. I'm playing the most recent DLC because I'm actually enjoying the way the story is going right now. But I will be tomorrow. It'll be Project Zomboid. But I didn't change the screen there. But it turns out that PlayStation's free games of the month, one of them is Dead Space, which is a game I've been wanting to play for forever. And every time it goes on sale, I'm like, oh, should I get it? Oh, I really want to. Well, now I don't have to worry about it because I'm going to get it for free. I'm not going to own it, right? I'm going to have a license for it. But I'm finally going to have it. And I'm like, oh, man, just the perfect timing. It's Halloween. I have Dead Space. It's the free game of the month. So I'll probably be doing Dead Space. I'll definitely be, but again, those don't usually launch until maybe the 8th of the month or so. Like it's usually like the second Tuesday or second Thursday of the month or something like that. So I will be doing Project Zomboid first, and then when that drops, I will do that. But I am debating whether I will be alternating between them or if I will be just doing exclusively Dead Space. I think I'm going to alternate this time. I haven't done that in a while, so I think I'll be doing, maybe 1 day a week or 2 days a week Project Zomboid and 1 day a week Dead Space. So I think that's the plan.
Perfect. And on my side, so maybe you have seen, but finished finally with Warhammer Space Marine 2 over last weekend. I made a full movie out of it. That's the first format we have like this on the channel. Please tell us if you like it, because I know that we don't have time to play all the games that we want. So I made this with all the cutscene and skits. So if you're interested in more format like this, tell us, because we are playing a lot of games that we are not streaming. So we could just record the cutscenes and show them to you if you're interested in it. If you're not, please tell us as well. I know a lot of other people are doing it maybe in a better quality than we can do. But yeah, that's it for me. So thank you guys. I guess I wish you a good day, a good night for me. And we'll see you next week for Weekly Quest number 3.
Mm-hmm.
Bye-bye.
Bye.